Thanks for listening to the Business Banter Podcast. I'm Mark Poppen and I run Funky Moose Digital. This podcast is about how business owners got their start, what their drive is, which struggles they've faced, and how they've overcome them, what the future holds, and much more. In this episode, I'm joined by Andrea and Samantha. They run a startup called Harlow. Harlow is an app for freelancers to get organized. Harlow does everything from invoicing, contracts, task management, customer management, and time tracking. I'll let them introduce themselves, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
My name's Andrea and Wildt, and I'm one of the co-founders of Harlow. And Sam and I, there's so much overlap between the two of us as we're building this business. Both of us have really strong marketing backgrounds. But right now I'm primarily on like product side of the house, doing a lot of support as we're in our beta program, getting ready to launch. And then all of the like nitty gritty side of the business also. So the accounting and payroll and all of that fun stuff.
Yes, and like Andrea said, there's a lot of overlap, but as she's taking the lead on all of that, also Samantha Anderl here, co-founder of Harlow, but as she's taking the lead on all of that, I am really focusing a lot on our marketing, content, community, how we build our audience, and how we communicate with them, expanding our reach and everything that comes in to play there. And I will say one of the really important pieces of Andrea and I's background is that we actually met at a company called Campaign Monitor about 8 years ago. She was actually the CMO there and I was the head of marketing. So we worked there, left and actually started our freelance careers together, formed a boutique consulting business, which was called Interimly. And from Interimly and our 3 or 4 years of freelancing together is really where Harlow came from. So our journey spans about the last 8 years and has led us up to Harlow and this partnership.
Cool. That was actually my my question. Like, how did you guys meet, and how did you become partners in Harlow? Because okay, let's back up. What is Harlow?
Yes. So Harlow is a software product. It is built for freelancers. So we like to call it like a B2B or a white collar freelancer. So think about the designer, the content writer, the social media consultant. So Harlow is really built for those people to organize their day-to-day and get paid and everything in between. So task management, client management, sending proposals and contracts and getting those signed. So we're in beta currently, but we are launching very soon.
I had the pleasure of checking out your beta.
Yes.
Not as much as I wanted yet. But and I noticed there were a few things that you still need to work on, but it's pretty slick.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, we're scrambling right now. Now that we've got a bunch of people in the product, it's been great to actually get the feedback and get that prioritized list of things that absolutely have to be resolved.
Totally. And it's pretty surreal. Andrea and I, we've really been focused on building the actual product for the last 4 months. We've been focused on building the company, raising money, ideating, all of that for a lot longer. But it's very surreal this past week to actually see people in the product and using it and giving us feedback. And we've actually received a ton of positive feedback, which has been really energizing. So we're really pumped.
So I was wondering if you have a beta version and you open it up to a bunch of testers and you get all of that feedback, is that like information overload and you're like, should we have done this?
Like Sam said, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster because people find all the bugs and which is the point, and all of the things that don't make sense to them that aren't intuitive. And so it is a little bit overwhelming of like, oh, here's 4 bugs. But then you get 2 people that come in and say, this is awesome. This is exactly what I need.
Yeah. And then you have this Canadian guy that says, hey, we have different taxes than you guys in the
US.
Currencies and taxes. That is something that we're diving deep into after a lot of feedback, which is great. It's super helpful.
Yeah.
All right. How did this, you had a boutique agency. Was it just the pain points where you're like, okay, we got to change this because this is too much work?
Yeah. Samantha and I kind of struggled with our business. We had like 5 different tools that we were using when we were running internally, and we also worked with a lot of other freelancers as well. And so we would hear from them that they were using all these different tools and systems, and even the most sophisticated ones seemed to struggle with some of the basics of freelancing. And so things like invoicing, getting paid, and just like where to start their day from an organization standpoint. So we went out and we started looking at what tools were out there, and it just seemed like there wasn't a fan favorite. There are some tools, there are some great tools in the space, but they seemed to really focus on those freelancers that were like caterers and photographers. And we just didn't see a tool out there that people really loved that focused on that freelancer selling into a business. And so that's why we got really excited about the space and said, we think we can solve this.
Where are you located?
I'm in San Francisco.
And I'm actually in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So we have been building this product together from separate states. We actually haven't seen each other in about 2 years.
Yep.
Wow. I didn't ask. I thought you were both in San Francisco and then, have a small office somewhere looking out on the bay. I don't know.
No.
And our development team is actually in Argentina.
Argentina. Yeah. That's not a country you hear often.
Yeah, so we're actually building the company to be fully remote. So of course, Andrew's in San Francisco. I'm up here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We're using freelancers from around the country. We have somebody in New York, somebody in Boise, Idaho, a couple people in Texas. Our development team's in Argentina. And that's actually one thing that Andrea and I are really excited about. We are building like a remote first, very flexible company. We're very passionate about building somewhere that we want to work. And so we want that to, that's one of the reasons why we went into freelancing, because we wanted more flexibility in our schedules. We wanted more autonomy. We wanted to really like own our own schedules. And so we're building that into Harlow as we grow the company.
Cool. When you were at,
Campaign Monitor.
Campaign Monitor. Mm-hmm. Were you in the same office at that time, or was that also remote?
Nope. I was in the office. It's funny, like I hired Samantha before I even started, my first day. And at the time it was funny. I had my offer and they're like, hey, we've been talking to this woman. You should chat with her. So we chatted. I was like, yep, we should hire you. Best decision I could have made. But
it's still working out to this day. Yeah. So we're good.
At the time, I was in San Francisco and we had an office here, but Samantha was up in Seattle. And she would come down every other month. That company was actually headquartered in Australia. So we would go to Australia every quarter. So we got to see each other a lot more often. But just with, with the new company, the pandemic, I had a baby. We just haven't been able to travel and see each other. So it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That was one of my questions. Like, if you're in the same office, have you had days where you wanted to bash each other's head in?
No.
Andrea and I work together so well. Like we are very different humans, but we complement each other really well. And I will say, kind of at the core of that is like, we really respect each other, right? Like we don't see eye to eye on everything. We don't always like want to take the same direction, but we really respect each other's opinions. And, we'll have debates all the time. Like, hey, I really think this. Okay, you don't. I hear you. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what our path forward is. But I don't know. I mean, at the core of it, we really respect each other.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Like the other podcast I do with Joel, he's also my partner in a music festival that we're organizing. And we always have, well, not always, we have different ideas about something. Mm-hmm. For example, should we have, I don't know, what should we do with the bar? Do we outsource that or do we get volunteers and do it ourselves? As an example, or what should ticket prices be, or, mm-hmm. things like that. And sometimes we come up with a different argument for the same problem. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, who's going to win this one? So we were into a conversation. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it had something to do with it had something to do with tickets. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was I had one position and he had the other, and then we're like, okay, what do we do? So we just
Yep.
called a completely random person that was not involved in the organization of the whole thing, but he is in the music industry. So we were like,
Hmm.
okay, this is our struggle. This is a problem. What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
I
And I
love it.
won. I won.
I feel like sometimes we go back to, okay, either who's most passionate about this specific issue that we're trying to solve, or
Yeah.
we take the route, which we take this route a lot. It's like, hey, we have no idea who's right. We're testing everything right now, especially with starting Harlow, right? Everything's a test. We have no idea what people are going to respond to, what's going to stick, what's going to work best. So we're like, hey, let's go with your path and we'll write down this other idea. And if this doesn't work, we'll come back to it. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have something in our
can
back
tell you.
pocket.
Then I can tell you I told you so, and that would be my idea.
No, I told you so.
We had a boss at Campaign Monitor that was great about like is this a one-way door decision or a two-way door decision? And so we talk about that a lot, like, is this a one-way door? If we make this decision, can we go back and change our minds?
Totally.
And if it's two-door decision, then that's fine.
Yep.
We can always pivot.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. That's what Joel and I do too. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if there's something, he adamantly is putting his foot down, like this is gonna happen, and I'm like, sure, but I don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Then we'll go with his
Right.
idea, right? It makes sense in a partnership like that. Cool. What was life before Harlow?
So when Andrea and I worked at Campaign Monitor, we worked there for 3 or 4 years together. We had a killer team. Like, this was an all-star team. They got a big round of funding. They hired in all of these really incredible people. We had a wonderful team there. So we spent, 3 to 4 years growing Campaign Monitor, working with a bunch of awesome people. And then at some point, Campaign Monitor started going just in a different direction. We had helped it grow through this very specific stage, and we were kind of growing out of that stage. And so we got to the point where Andrea and I were working a lot, right? So we were working, 7 to 7. We had a lot of meetings. We were managing teams all over, in Australia, in San Francisco, in New York, in UK, in the Philippines. So it just got to be a lot. And I think Andrea and I both felt the need at that point to take a step back and figure out what we really wanted to do moving forward. We were both experiencing a little bit of burnout. And so what actually Andrea decided and then talked me into was going this freelancing route. So she's like, hey, I've gotten out of freelancing my entire career. I think I'm going to go back into it. But what if we did this together, right? What if we built this like consulting firm? And I was like, yes, I'll follow you anywhere. That sounds great. Let's do it. Let's try it out.
Yeah, this was my third time freelancing, and each time looked totally different. This is the first time that I did it with a business partner, which is way more fun. Because freelancing can be really lonely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think I was really lucky to enter into freelancing at the same time as Andrea, because she had done it before, right? A lot of freelancers go into freelancing. They've never done it before. They have to figure everything out on their own, figure out where to get resources, where their community is, how to price, how to do all of these things. And I had a lot of that history just from Andrea being in freelancing before, which was really great for me. But I will say there's things that I came into that I had to push Andrea on to elevate our business, things like raising our prices and setting up boundaries and, putting expectations in place with our clients so that we had a good relationship with them, but also so that we had a good relationship with each other and our own schedules.
Yeah. When I hear partnership in business, it always, my neck hair goes up when I hear that, because I had a business. This was 20 years ago. I ran a business with then a friend, and it didn't go so well, and we're not friends anymore. So, the whole partnership thing, to me, right now I'm freelancing. my previous 4 years were a 9 to 5, also in digital marketing. And
Mhm.
before that, I was freelancing. So this is actually also my third time freelancing. Um, and it's funny how the world evolves. And when you get back to freelancing, you have to kind of relearn everything, but you have
Mhm.
experience already. So it's kind of nice to have the experience, but in a, let's call it a new world, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what I hear from a lot of people that go in and out of freelancing, and I think for Andrea specifically too, is the first time you freelance, you offer a specific set of services. Then you
yeah,
go in and you expand your knowledge, you expand your skill set, you get better at what you do, you go into freelance again, and then you have a different set of services. It's a different pricing, you're further along in your career, right? So
Yeah.
that transitions the type of client that you're working, all of that. So it's like you could freelance every 4 years, right? Like go in and out, but
yeah,
it's gonna be different every single time.
Yeah. And your skill set changes. I mean, when I started, my first freelancing gigs were basically project managing website builds, which I wouldn't really know how to do that now, to be honest with you. I'm so out of touch.
yeah,
You expand your skill set and you lose some skill set. You
Yeah,
expand
yeah,
and you
definitely.
lose. You expand,
yeah.
you
You do.
lose. Yep.
For me in the web design world too. The way I build websites now are more marketing focused
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
less development. I mean, I can write HTML, or I could. I probably still can, but I never tried it
Mhm.
anymore because I
Yep.
didn't need it. The
Yeah.
WordPress has advanced and to a point where I don't need to write HTML anymore.
Mhm.
And every once in a while a CSS snippet here and there. That's not a problem. And if I really needed to, I could probably build a website from scratch in HTML and CSS.
But you don't need to.
I don't want
So we
to.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, exactly. Yeah. So talk me through how you raised funds for Harlow.
So, very early on, this was actually a really long process. Samantha and I spent months talking about what type of company we wanted to build. And then building business models. So I definitely like the business side of Harlow, and we created a 5-year plan. We figured out what we thought our expenses were going to be, how much revenue we could generate, all of that. And when we looked at it, we realized, well, there's no way that we can fund this on our own. And we actually really did want to focus solely on Harlow. We didn't want to do this as a side project while we were consulting also. So at that point in time, it became clear that we needed to raise a little bit of money to help us bring the business to life. And so at that point, we started talking to a bunch of people. So we're very lucky that we have a lot of founder friends and some friends in VC, some lawyer friends. And so we just scheduled a lot of virtual coffee dates and talked to these people about what they did and what made sense for them. And I would say it definitely got a little overwhelming at moments because we got so much information. We got really confused about, wait, what should we do? Who are we? But it became clear after all these conversations that we didn't want to go a traditional VC route, that actually wasn't the right path for us. And it comes back to something Sam mentioned earlier about building a calm, fun company that we both wanted to work at. And we don't want to work from 6 a.m. until 8 o'clock at night. We both have families and lives outside of that. We want to work really hard and build something amazing. But we just felt like we didn't want to get on that traditional VC hamster wheel. So with that, we decided to try and tap into our networks and build and raise money through a friends and family round. And so we sat down, we put together a giant list of every single person we possibly knew that might be interested.
Every single person that we knew. It was a very long list.
It was really, really long. We prioritized it. And then what we did is we built out the website and the branding before we went out and started to raise. And I think that was really helpful for us for a couple of reasons. So we were able to launch the brand and the website and tell everybody what we were doing. And that gave us an in for that conversation.
Right. Because I noticed that you've been teasing this for what, 2 years now?
About a year now.
About a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So we officially, there's been a lot of official launches, but we did our first soft launch, I think back in June or July of 2021. And that was actually when Andrea and I like firmly established, okay, what are we building? What is like our brand ethos? What is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? And that allowed us to then soft launch across social. So we actually had a lot of people reaching out to us, asking us if we were going to take funding, how we were going to make money, how we were going to raise money, but it allowed us also to reference all of those posts when we started to reach out to investors. Hey, you probably saw this on social, but we are launching this thing. We're looking for investors. If you're interested, let us know. And we had a lot of interest, which was amazing.
yep.
Going back to the funding a little bit, because you tapped into your network of friends.
Friends, family, contacts.
Yeah.
Friends and family is a very loose term, which Andrea and I tell everybody. So it really was, people that we worked with previously. It was friends of friends. It was, connections from different, maybe we talked to VC and we're like, hey, we're not going the VC route. And they're like, okay, well, a couple of our pals angel invest. Let us connect you with them. They may be interested. So it really was friends and family is very loosely defined.
Yeah.
Right.
But it just means that we took money from a lot of individual people who angel invested in the company.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if, I don't want to jinx anything, but what happens if Harlow doesn't do what it's supposed to do and you still owe those people money?
That's not going to happen.
Nope. we don't even go down that path.
Good.
Harlow's going to kill it.
Yeah.
It's a good product. It's a necessary product. The market's there.
I know it's always a touchy subject to bring something like that up. So maybe I'll cut this out.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, to be super honest, like the way that we structured our fundraising was through Safe Notes. And Safe Notes essentially, protects the business from liability in case that it doesn't work out. So, we told everybody that gave us money, like, hey, this is an investment. With an investment comes risk. And early stage tech, like investing in early stage tech companies, is a very risky move. So all of our investors are very aware. We were very upfront. We told them what we were trying to do and what our goals were, with them also knowing that there is also a chance that we don't meet those goals, that we don't take the path that we want to. There are a lot of different outcomes that could happen. And so I think a lot of people understand that, but also invested because they believed in us.
Who would use Harlow exactly, and why should they use it?
Yeah, so Harlow is built specifically for who we call like this B2B freelancer or the white collar freelancer. So think about a solo human who runs their own small business and sells into an organization. So you could be a social media consultant, you could be a designer, you could be a content writer, a PR consultant, maybe you're in human resources, maybe you're a virtual assistant. There are a lot of different people that operate small businesses and operate them in a similar manner based on who they're selling to. So we're really building Harlow for that audience.
So you mentioned you do invoicing,
Mm-hmm.
you do time tracking, task management,
Yep.
contact management.
Yeah.
I'm doing this from the top of my head.
I know, this is really good.
This is good.
Yeah.
You've
Proud of you.
One piece left. Proposals and contracts.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I clicked around a little bit. What I really like about this, and I think I messaged that to you too, that it's very clean. Like
Yes.
I've seen a few of these apps, and the developers take all that feedback, which is great, but they also implement it, which is not always great because it becomes an overwhelming shitstorm of
Yeah.
stuff that nobody
Totally.
needs. Well, not I need, So how do you tackle that?
I'm actually really glad that you brought that up because one of the things that's really important to Andrea and I, we keep saying this word like calm and this feeling of like empathy. Like we go back to, okay, freelancing is a very lonely venture. You can be on your own. You don't really have, a lot of people don't have a large network that they can tap into, right? And so a lot of times maybe their day-to-days feel unorganized. It feels a little chaotic, sometimes sporadic. And so Andrea and I went into this saying, we want to create a piece of software that people actually enjoy logging into, that gives them some sense of like calmness, organization, that feels really empathetic, and that doesn't feel really scattered like a lot of other pieces of software do, right? We all know we've used project management systems, we've used CRMs, we've used all these other pieces of software that we log into because we have to run our business, right?
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
ugh, I don't like it, but I'm going to. And we really wanted to say, no, that's not the way that we're building Harlow. We want to build a product that people actually enjoy using. We play around a lot with this concept of delight. We want it to feel delightful. We want it to feel fun. We want it to feel clean and easy when you log in. We don't want it to feel stressful or chaotic or hectic. We want it to feel good.
Yeah, you don't want it to be one of those tools that you
Exactly.
have to use. Yeah,
Which is, so back to your point though, I think that it's definitely a challenge for us, because you have to balance those more sophisticated freelancers, which honestly, they might not be a right fit.
Yep.
For Harlow, because we definitely have freelance friends that have intense project management needs, and are just running their business in a way that they're probably not the best fit for Harlow. But I would say for those freelancers that are getting started, it's a great tool. And frankly, even where Samantha and I were, this would have been an ideal tool for us. We could have cut out like 3 other pieces of software that we were using.
Yeah, because if I look at my own, the way I do it now, I use QuickBooks for invoicing. That's because my accountant uses it, so it makes sense. I use Toggle to manage my time, and TickTick for my task management. And the rest,
I haven't heard of that.
And the rest, I rely on my email.
Yep.
So if I need an address, it's probably in my email somewhere, or I look up the contract that I sent to them, which I do in a Word document and then via Hello sign.
Yep.
So
we were the same. We were Google Docs, Hello sign, Asana, Hours app. I mean, just think about that. There's like $80-$100 a month right there.
And they're great. They're great tools. Individually, but together they don't really work together.
Yep.
Exactly. So now you're managing your business in 4, 5, 6 tabs that are open on like a daily basis just for you to run your small business, when you're also communicating with clients, actually doing the work, right? There's so much else that goes into it. And so Andrea and I, that's the exact reason we wanted to create this, is to just simplify that workflow and help people streamline their business and how they, ran it and organized it.
How about price point? What do you have that in mind yet, or is that a?
Yeah, it'll be $30 a month.
That's
so
it.
Very
Flat
reasonable.
fee.
That's it.
Flat fee.
$30 a month.
$30 a month.
Discount if you buy for the year. So 1 month free.
That's one of the things that Andrea and I were really conscious of, is that, again, this is a single human. They are running their small business. Like they're cost conscious, right?
Yeah.
Andrea and I we looked at the price of everything that we bought. It's not like we're at like a, we're not at like a B2B software company where we have, a $30,000 tool budget that we're pulling from. And we're like, yeah, let's try this. Like the tools that those people choose, it's really meaningful to them. And the money that they're spending to run their business is really meaningful to them. They're freelancing. They want to keep dollars in their own pocket. And so we wanted to make it really affordable for that audience.
Is that written out somewhere? Because I didn't see a price.
Not yet.
Pricing page launching soon.
Right.
But it will be. It will be.
Is that one of those issues that you're having right now with the
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, we will be.
We need to talk.
Right. That's another thing. Andrea and I do want to be really transparent with everything with Harlow. So whether it's pricing or features, functionality, who we really truly work best for, like we're putting all of that information out there. So once we launch, you'll be able to find pricing, exact features, exactly who we're for. Definitely want to be transparent. We've worked at companies that want to be everything for everyone, and we do not want to do that. We want to be really, really focused.
Yeah, and then pricing structures get complicated. And how about integration with other tools? For example, QuickBooks, I mentioned. My accountant uses QuickBooks. So if I have an invoice in Harlow, will that connect to QuickBooks, for
Not on
example?
day one, it won't. Upfront, the only integrations we have is to Google Apps, obviously,
Right.
which is actually even required for Harlow. So when we were getting started, we interviewed a ton of freelancers, and it turns out that 95% of them were using the Google Suite. And so we just wanted to build that in right away. So that's the only integration we have to date. But I will say from the beta program, we've had a lot of requests for integrations into some finance tools as well as some project management tools. So I think that's on the horizon.
Interesting. Let's say Harlow gets, this is just a question that just popped in my head. So
Love it.
let's say Harlow gets an offer to get bought out, and you each get to pick one feature that has to stay.
Ooh. Actually, I know what mine is. One thing that you know what mine is, you know what yours is.
No, I have no idea what yours is, actually.
I will say the one thing that I felt really passionate about when we were building Harlow is our client dashboard and this client view. Is one thing that I felt like was really missing when we were running interimly. I just did not have somewhere to go where I could see a view of all of the clients that we were managing and what was going on with them, right? Like where I could see the meetings that were coming up, the emails that had been sent, the tasks that were coming up, the projects that we were working on. And so for me, that client view would have been so beneficial because I like starting my morning just understanding what's going on, what my priorities are, where I should focus. And that to me gives freelancers that view. So I would say the client dashboard and client management view.
So she's
I would say
saying
keep
all the features.
Yeah.
Keep it all.
Well,
Yeah. So anyone listening that wants to buy Harlow, everything stays.
Yeah, pretty much.
Andrea, you?
So, I mean, I do agree just in the sense of like, having a single place to log in and like get a view of your business is amazing. Because I just wouldn't go into QuickBooks, honestly. Like I would go in once a month and it'd be like, darn it, this client hasn't paid us, you know?
Yeah.
And so having it all in one place is obviously awesome. But I will say one of the things that I love is the proposal management, because we managed all of our proposals in Google Docs and then using HelloSign. And so it was just this kind of fragmented experience for us. And just having like, we packaged up our services interimely. And so we sold a lot of like demand generation, strategy, and execution. And so every project had a basic framework to it that would have been perfect in a Harlow template, to be honest with you. And just to templatize, hey, these are kind of the 3 things that we typically sell, and then go in and customize them by client. I think we could have saved ourselves a lot of pain and trouble. So that's kind of one of my favorite things about the product.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I will say one thing that's very apparent in freelancing is that unless you are a designer, you are typically not that good at putting together a proposal, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to design their proposal, format their proposal. It takes time. You just want something given to you that you can plug your information into, plug your branding into, and send it off. And that's, actually when Andrea and I first started out, we had our initial proposal, which looked terrible. And we're marketers, right? Like we want things to look good, but our proposal was bad. And so we actually had a friend come in who fixed everything up for us. And he's like, okay, don't touch anything. Send this out exactly as it is. And that's what we did for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But having that from the very beginning would have saved us a lot of time and our friend a lot of time.
Yeah. My proposals and contracts are they're all the same, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Just fill out your name and sign at the bottom type of thing. But I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. Contracts are always ugly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, you have the first interaction with people, but your actual first transaction with a client is your contract.
Totally.
So that is a place where you can impress people, with your work before even doing work.
It's a selling opportunity,
Yep,
it's
exactly.
another way to pitch people.
You
Exactly.
You just put redesign my contract on my to-do list. I'll put it in Harlow.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want people to know about Harlow or yourself?
We're launching really soon, so keep an eye on the website.
I know, and I guess depending also when this launches, we may already be live. So there's a little teaser for you. Go to meetharlow.com and check it out. See if you can sign up yet or not.
Awesome. That was all I wanted to
Perfect.
get done. So thank you very
Beautiful.
much for
Fun.
hanging out with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was really fun. And we'll definitely be hitting you up on website stuff soon.
Absolutely.